The title of this video is Why Bad Things Can Happen to Good People. And sometimes this question is also asked, why do things sometimes go bad after I've had a clearing or a healing? When someone genuinely heals, forgives, or awakens spiritually, doesn't it seem that life should instantly mirror that inner peace and clarity? After all, if your inner world has shifted toward love, peacefulness, and freedom, shouldn't the outer world respond in a like manner? Isn't the outer world a mirror of your inner world? Many people assume that after a deep healing, that abundance, harmonious relationships, and effortless blessings will start flowing instantly and automatically. Some even imagine that newfound wealth or synchronicities will just pop up and appear as a confirmation that they've made progress. One person I talked to had listened to the movie The Secret, which is all about the law of attraction, and he had watched it 50 times and could not understand why money was not literally delivered to his front door. Well, I asked him, what are you doing to bring in some income? What are you doing to generate income? And he said, well, I've been watching the movie The Secret, believing it would activate something magical and cause money literally to appear on his front porch. What complicates this subject is when you read a story about someone who watched the movie The Secret and money did arrive in their mail or from some unexpected source. And you hear about these examples and you wonder, what's wrong with me? How come I'm not lucky? You think you're a good person, and yet sometimes the opposite of good things come your way. It is true that good people can face losses and conflicts and sudden challenges just when they feel that they're finally becoming lighter and more loving. Some people report that after major breakthroughs, after releasing decades of emotional pain and forgiving all those that hurt them, or experiencing a deep spiritual opening and an epiphany, their lives seem to become more chaotic. Relationships might fall apart. Old friends drift away. Financial or health issues may rise unexpectedly. And it can feel as though the universe has been betraying you, as if healing invited more problems rather than offering relief. This paradox is one of the deeper mysteries of the spiritual path. And it's one that a lot of people have asked. Understanding this requires seeing beyond the surface level because it challenges your surface level understanding of what healing really is. To comprehend it, you have to look beyond appearances and enter the energetic and karmic mechanics of transformation. In truth, the universe is not punishing anyone for healing. It's actually reorganizing your life to match your new higher vibration. And as I continue in this video, I'm going to explain the deeper spiritual and energetic reasons why this happens. True, deep energy and spiritual healing does not simply erase pain. It changes your frequency. It changes your whole inner energetic structure. So imagine that every belief, every memory, every emotion, every relationship in your life is organized around specific energetic patterns that you've set in motion probably your whole life, or at least for decades. So you've set up a kind of vibration and frequency architecture, and that defines your reality. So when you heal an old wound, then that frequency architecture must be rebuilt. For instance, if you once carried a belief, I am unworthy of love, your relationships would likely reflect that pattern with people who either overlook you or mistreat you. When you truly heal that core wound, you no longer vibrate at that frequency of unworthiness. The problem is your outer world is still structured around the old beliefs. That's the energy that's been put out there for who knows how long. And therefore, the energy in your life begins to rearrange itself, often by dismantling what no longer matches. And this takes time. And the reorganization process can look like a loss in the short term. But it's actually really a transformation. A job, a friendship, or a familiar lifestyle that once fit your unhealed self may no longer align with your new higher vibration. So the new ones can take their place. You may lose interest in some things. Some people may lose interest in you. And the universe begins to release these elements that don't fit the new wavelengths and frequency. It makes space so that new ones can take their place. From the soul's perspective, this is an act of grace and blessing. It's a gift. From the personality's perspective, it can feel like your life is falling apart when your old painful wounds and memories are healed or suppressed emotions are released. Your external world must then also reorganize to reflect your new energy patterns. And this usually takes some time. It's not immediate. Some of the changes in your outer world unfold over days and weeks, some cases, maybe even months. This is part of the reality of the third dimension. That's where we live. It is dense, and movements and changes are often not instantaneous. They might be instantaneous in the higher, less dense dimensions, sure. So you can visualize something and imagine it changing very quickly. But it takes a while for all of these energy patterns to reorganize. You're resetting the whole chess match and putting all the players in a new place. Another issue with the energy clearing process is it sometimes, and maybe often, stirs up buried patterns related to the issue that you were clearing. And that can create temporary cognitive dissonance and confusion and chaos, or even unwanted and unexpected consequences. Old relationships, jobs, or circumstances that were a match for the unhealed version of yourself naturally begin to fall away and disintegrate. But they may, in the process, trigger reactions within you and other people. So the process can look like loss. It can feel like loss. It can look like chaos. It can look like conflict. But it is actually your life clearing space, realigning, setting up new alignments. Now, the kind of healing that I've taught for over 50 years is to bring the miraculous healing light of the soul into all of the painful, dark, and even hidden memories in a person's history. To be thorough and effective, this must include karmic patterns, past life karmic patterns, contracts, obligations, unfinished lessons, outdated beliefs, unresolved relationships, and especially those still entangled with pain and struggling and suffering. So these energies all begin to come to the surface when you start clearing and healing. in ways that sometimes trigger others to treat you in ways that you might think of as punishment. Or you might think, what have I done wrong? But in actuality, they're presenting themselves simply to be released, to be healed. So then your outer world can mirror the purification process by bringing forward experiences in the way people treat you that reveal what still needs to be healed and to be brought to resolution and completion. This takes time. Change is not complete instantaneously, even if the process was started instantaneously. Pretty much all issues have many, many layers to them because they were created and reinforced over many lifetimes, and certainly over many years in this lifetime. Most of your lifetimes were lived in ignorance of what you know in this lifetime. So you were living basically in survival mode from your ego personality and all of its defense mechanisms. You were not living from your holy, sacred, blessed soul. So think of this clearing and healing process as an energetic detox. And just as the body releases toxins during a physical healing, the evolving personality releases old energetic residues. Sometimes I call them artifacts or residue that are left behind when you do a healing. This purging phase of the healing can temporarily attract experiences that mirror whatever's leaving your life. And in the process, bring to light unresolved questions, conflicts, and maybe hidden and unrecognizing dynamics and patterns and beliefs that you didn't even know were there. But they start bubbling to the surface so you can address them. What seems like negative events are in the short term often recognized simply as catalysts for deeper healing, liberation, and the next phase of your evolution. It's like when the body heals from an illness, it sometimes enters what's called a healing crisis. All of these toxins that were built up in the body are pushed to the surface, and they are then expelled. And that can temporarily intensify the symptoms. So similarly, when emotional or spiritual toxins are released, your outer life can temporarily feel more turbulent. For example, someone who heals deep anger might suddenly find themselves in situations that provoke the very emotion, not as a punishment, but as the final opportunity to release the anger. I had this very thing happen to me many years ago when I was in a bank trying to make a deposit. And for some inexplicable reason, they would not accept the check and deposit it in my account. Now, who ever heard of such a thing, right? There was no rational explanation given why they would not accept the deposit. They told me they wanted the person who had written me the check to personally come to the bank and verify that they wrote the check. I'd never heard of such a thing that was so ridiculous. I said, the guy's name's in the phone book. Call him and ask him and he'll tell you. And they said, oh no, he's got to come down to the bank. Well, I started boiling over with unbelievable anger and I started yelling at the clerk. And while I'm yelling, I'm thinking, what am I doing? I've never done anything like this. I have never even felt anything like this before in my life. I have no idea where this deep anger is coming from. Well, the bank never did deposit the check. And so I closed the account and I moved to another bank. What I later realized had happened to me was I had been working on releasing and dissolving all the sources of anger within me. And my explosion in the bank was the core of anger coming to the surface to be released and dissolved. That was several decades ago, and I have never felt anger like that ever again. So, this is an example of how a spiritual detox can work. Old energies can emerge into visibility to be seen, felt, so you can release them for good. And if you don't understand how the process works, you could very easily misinterpret this process as regression. Why are these old problems resurfacing? Why are they so strong? When in truth, it's a sign of release and possibly completion. The hidden material of your subconscious becomes conscious. And that allows the subtle energy or light force energy holding those emotional reactions to surface so they can be addressed and dissolved. The world you experience is a mirror of your inner vibration. As your frequency shifts upward, it naturally reveals what is out of resonance with that higher energy. So while it may appear that negative things happen, sometimes without any explanation, there is an unseen order at work. And here's the way it works. Healing first changes the invisible energetic blueprint, and the physical world then follows, often through a temporary period of dismantling and rewriting old contracts and agreements. Consider someone who has healed from childhood abandonment. For years, they might have attracted partners who were emotionally unavailable. After deep inner healing, they suddenly feel a surge of empowerment. Yet within weeks, their current partner grows distant or the relationship ends. What's going on? Painful as it is, this event is mirroring the fact that the relationship was built on the old vibration of fear and neediness. The relationship collapse is a sign that a higher alignment is preparing to take its place. When healing occurs, buried karmic imprints, both personal and those in relationships, can rise into visibility in order to be addressed and resolved. So what's surfacing isn't a punishment. It's presenting itself for healing and completion. Your response, perhaps your best response, should be, thank you for letting me know. And I now bless you and release you. So this statement acknowledges the pattern presenting itself to you to be addressed and acknowledges that you are now ready to let it go. And sometimes they'll dissolve very easily because you've already gone through some of the healing. And so you go through some of these experiences to help integrate the lessons and finalize the soul contracts that no longer serve your path forward. And this will stabilize you at a new frequency, a higher frequency. You could apply the same thing to a career change, or family dynamics, or health challenges. Your outer world faithfully reflects the purification that's happening within. The moment you bring light into the old darkness, Everything that was built on the negative energy, or the doubts, or the fears, or the anger, or the hatred, or the guilt, or the depression, must either transform or dissolve. Any outer turbulence or resurfacing of issues doesn't mean that the healing has failed. Quite the contrary. It means transformation is working at a deeper level than your mind might be even aware of at this time. But over time, as the new energy stabilizes, external circumstances begin to realign with the healed inner state, often in more supportive ways than before. But this might not be immediately obvious in the beginning. It may be mostly noticed over time, and that could mean weeks. Now, let's briefly talk about the law of attraction, because it's related to what I'm talking about. The law of attraction, I think, is often oversimplified. Many people assume it means that clearing or healing automatically attracts pleasant experiences, when in truth, it aligns you with what matches your authentic frequency at that time, whether pleasurable or uncomfortable. And that is why you often don't have positive results instantly. When your vibration rises, you begin to reorganize your internal space and energy accordingly. Anything that cannot sustain the new vibration will either leave you, and that includes people, or rise to the surface so you can address it. And this reorganizing or reordering of your energy can sometimes cause some short-term turbulence. It's like shaking a snow globe. And for a while, there's all this chaos going on inside this little globe. But gradually it settles, and it reveals the clarity of what's in the globe. Your vibrations and frequency fluctuate throughout the day according to how you react, your emotions, what you're thinking. Sometimes you're happy, sometimes you might feel sad. Every sensation has a certain an emotion attached to it. And emotions are the fuel or the energy underneath what is going to manifest in your life. So you might be visualizing a new house or a new car or a bigger bank account or a new relationship. And yet you are wondering why all the positive affirmations and visualizations haven't made it happen yet. Well, all that type of work is like applying paint over rust. If you haven't first cleared and repaired the rust. Anybody who's done any painting knows that you've got to clean the surface, or the paint won't stick, or whatever's underneath that paint will come through the paint. So if there's rust, representative of lower frequencies and limiting beliefs, and you put paint over it, representative of the positive affirmations and the visualizations, that rust is eventually going to work its way through to the surface of the paint. The rust you hold in your subconscious and unconscious places are what are creating and attracting what and who you experience. When someone raises their vibration, everything out of resonance with that vibration must surface or dissolve. The law of attraction doesn't just deliver pleasant outcomes. It aligns you with the frequencies and energies that you emit from unconscious places. And this alignment can initially feel uncomfortable because the old structures of your life may need to collapse before something higher can take form. Now, let's use a real life metaphor. Imagine you have been living in a dimly lit room for years, and suddenly you get a new light and you turn on a bright light. For the moment, the light is going to reveal every speck of dust, every cobweb, everything that you never noticed before, all the mess that was always there. The light simply made it visible so it could be cleaned. Similarly, healing brings light to the unseen corners of your life. The mess that surfaces isn't new. It's simply being illuminated for clearing or being removed or deleting. Another way to view it is karmically. When healing occurs, buried karmic imprints, whether they're personal or maybe having to do with your relationships, they'll sometimes rise into visibility for you to address them or to resolve them. And in most cases, you're probably unaware of the details of what karmic cause is at work. From a karmic perspective, healing does not dissolve emotional wounds unless they are specifically addressed. Subtle energy healing and clearing can activate unfinished, buried karmic issues, karmas that were dormant for lifetimes may rise into activity once you've cleared some of the upper layers. This isn't punishment. They're opportunities for healing, for clearing, for tying up loose ends, for completion. So these experiences help integrate lessons and finalize the soul contracts and agreements that are no longer serving your path forward. A person who forgives an abusive parent may find themselves confronted by a new coworker who repeats the same pattern of control. This isn't a cruel repetition. It's part of the karmic completion process. The universe is offering you a chance to respond from being awake and conscious rather than from old conditioning and old patterns. Karmically, when a person raises their consciousness, dormant karmas that were waiting for lifetimes, usually ones that you don't remember, might suddenly activate so they can be resolved in this lifetime. In fact, think of this lifetime as your opportunity to tie up all the loose ends from all other lifetimes, to bring them all to completion, to heal them, to not run away from them or deny them. And even if it brings temporary storms, those storms are not chaos. They are cleansing winds pushing to the surface what is wanting to be addressed and healed. They're opportunities to strip away painful causes, false securities, illusions, painful, false limiting beliefs. And as you clear them away, then the soul can rise and take over. And you can live in alignment with divine will, with the beautiful expression and the essential goodness of your soul, rather than living from the ego-driven misperceptions and the distortions and the pain that the ego brings. The higher you rise in consciousness, the quicker you can clear karma. So what once took years to unfold in this slow three-dimensional world, can now surface in a short period of time, sometimes in days or maybe a few weeks. Sometimes it can almost seem to be instant karma because your soul can handle this accelerated purification process. So the storms are not chaos. They are cleansing currents, sweeping away the residues that have to go before you can lock into the next phase of your evolution. Another phenomenon that sometimes happens is that even though you've cleared an issue or conflict, you'll find it arises once or twice shortly after a healing. And you think, maybe I didn't let it go properly or completely. What may actually be happening is your mind is checking in for you to confirm that you, in fact, have evolved beyond that issue. You see, your mind was used to you reacting a certain way. And now the pattern causing that reaction has been deleted, dissolved, removed. The mind is wondering, are you sure you released all of it? So it will sometimes set you up so you'll be faced with a situation where you might have reacted in the old way, and the mind wants to see, is it still there? Or did you really heal it and dissolve it? Now, during this phase, which usually happens within a few days after a clearing, it's important to stay centered and trust the process. The outer turbulence doesn't mean healing has failed. It means transformation is working now at a deeper level. And over time, the new energy will stabilize. External circumstances will line up with the new frequencies, and your life will keep getting better and better. For example, let's say someone's self-worth depended on fixing others. That includes maybe healing others, educating others, rescuing others, or saving them in some way. And they finally heal that pattern. Well, the people who relied on that pattern may react with insecurity or anger. This reaction is not a sign of failure. It's a sign that the old karmic obligations or contracts or agreements or habits are ending. People may be reacting to the new way that you are because you are not the person they were familiar with, and you are no longer fulfilling the role of support that they had been expecting from you. You are not carrying them through life any longer. Now, in those cases, you must stand strong in your new role and not succumb to the old patterns that they're familiar with. And this isn't always easy because they may cling to you even stronger and want you to address the pain that they have in their life. They want you to save them. So the right response is not guilt or running away from the person, but gratitude. Thank you for showing me. I now bless and release you. Such a conscious closure will finalize the karmic loop, and this frees both parties to move on at higher levels of awareness. If you don't address the repeating pattern, they'll continue playing on a loop. So you can say to yourself, I release and let go of all need for you from my causal body. I release and let go of all need for you from my causal body. The causal body is where energy that causes creation and attraction is warehoused. And you want to specify that you're releasing it from there, as well as all the other places where it may be. For a long time, I didn't know I needed to do that. And I would be working with someone and guiding them to release something that was karmic. And then I was wondering why it didn't seem to be releasing. And then I realized because I was not addressing the place where the energy of that belief in that program was stored, which is in the causal body. And that's traditionally where it's believed karmic energy beliefs and patterns are stored. I call it your belief universe. So basically, it's wherever you store your beliefs. As you become more soul centered and integrated by releasing and healing all the causes of pain and suffering, then your whole life has to rearrange itself to match the higher frequency state. That makes sense, right? And so, what appears to be loss in the short term, or maybe chaos, is actually a sacred reordering of your reality into much greater harmony. But it usually happens over time and not instantaneously. When you vibrate at a higher frequency, which means you're more loving, you're more kind, you're more forgiving, you're more acceptant, you're more patient, you're more tolerant, you are more healing, then the universe can accelerate your growth and evolution. Whatever is not in harmony with that frequency must dissolve. It's just a matter of when, but it will. And sometimes this can look like loss or a breakdown or an ending. But these events are actual sacred clearings, making space for the soul's next level of expressing itself through you. So when negative and sad things happen to good people, it's not because they deserve it, but because their soul is strong enough to finish the cycles that other people may not be wanting to face or able to face yet. From the soul's perspective, every experience, pleasant or painful, serves awakening. What the mind calls negative often hides profound blessings, a deeper surrender, a profound blessing, an expansion of compassion, or maybe a burning away of old identities, personas that you no longer identify yourself with. They don't serve your truth. They don't serve your evolution into greater integration with the purity of your soul. So God is not punishing you. The universe is not punishing you. Your soul is not punishing you. They are rather refining all of your energies, polishing the heart like a diamond until only pure love remains. So when a good person suffers after a deep healing, it's not evidence of failure. It's evidence of evolution. The old energy is being dismissed, dissolved, dismantled, done away with, cleared away, evaporated, ceases to exist in order to make room for a higher order to emerge and take over. So your soul is actually preparing a new foundation, even if the construction process sometimes feels like a destruction. And of course, it's easy to misinterpret a hardship as a punishment, especially when it comes right after a period of lightness and peace and maybe love. The soul never punishes. It educates. It brings you opportunities. So the universe does not test in the human sense. It simply reflects what remains unresolved. So you can see it, you can feel it, and therefore you can heal it. A person who asks to become unconditionally loving may find themselves betrayed, not because love attracts betrayal, but because the soul is offering a master class in love without conditions. The truth is that just about everyone wants to be loved, appreciated, and supported unconditionally, 24/7. But this is a physical impossibility because everybody has personal responsibilities and activities they have to take care of. So they can't always be focused on you. And this is a rather tough lesson for children to learn, sometimes at a very early age. Mommy or daddy are not always available when they want them. And because of that, it can leave a very deep impression of abandonment. Even if you throw a tantrum and you stomp and you scream and you yell and you cry for an hour or two, and neither mommy or daddy come to comfort you. Maybe they were unavailable. They could not break free from what they were doing to come to you. So parents and guardians and other caregivers are not always able to live up to a 24/7 expectation of unconditional love and support. It's just the way it is. That's the way life is on planet Earth. The pain of this realization is not evidence of your being a failure at something spiritual. It's actually evidence that evolution is happening, but now it's working at a deeper level. And this understanding transforms how you relate to adversity. Rather than asking, why is this happening to me now? The awakened person says, what is this showing me that I'm ready to release? You see, the spiritual path is not about escaping the challenges of life, but rather awakening through them. Every apparent misfortune is a passageway to your evolution. Nothing truly bad ever happens to a soul. Only the sacred unraveling of what is not yet evolved into a deeper love. The soul is made out of love, a deeper love than you can imagine. And anytime something bad or negative seems to be happening, that's just an indication there's something that is wanting to be surrendered, released, let go, and dissolved. Now, another reason that bad things sometimes happen after healing is that ego personalities and identities, which I call subpersonalities, begin to emerge. So, for instance, after a profound clearing and healing, perhaps with forgiveness, someone may suddenly feel anger that they thought was gone. Fear, anger, or guilt might reappear. That does not indicate a regression. It's a revelation. The negative fragments or once hidden artifacts left from a major clearing may pop up to the surface. Psychologically, This resembles cognitive dissonance. The old self-image conflicts with the new, creating temporary confusion or discomfort. Energetically, it's somewhat like tectonic plates shifting to form new terrain. New tremors are always part of a stabilization. And sometimes cracks will open up. And then whatever's buried underneath will come to the surface. And I can illustrate this with a few examples. There's a woman named Maya who I did some healing work with on fear of abandonment. And her abandonment issue stemmed from finally being healed from a wound of being abandoned by her father. This happened when she was a very young child. He divorced her mother, exited her life, and after our session, I helped integrate the deep soul healing, and she felt radiant and whole. Yet in less than a month, her romantic partner, who she was involved with in a relationship, left her. She was devastated. She wondered if her healing had been a lie. In truth, her new vibration could no longer sustain a relationship that was built on a dependency. That breakup cleared space for a later partnership based on mutual respect, emotional honesty, and commitment. Another example is Daniel, who's a successful executive, and he had an spiritual awakening. It was like an epiphany during a retreat. And then when he went back home, his priorities shifted. He was no longer resonating with corporate competition. And within a few months, he was laid off. And at first, he was confused. He thought things would get better. He saw this as loss. But later, he recognized it was liberating, paving a way to a new successful career in coaching professionals. And his life actually became very successful, much more so than he was prior. The third example concerns a woman named Helen who forgave her estranged mother and felt at peace for the first time in decades. A few weeks after a healing, her mother unexpectedly contacted her and started bringing up some old painful memories. This was the soul's way of giving Helen a chance to confirm the healing and the forgiveness and to embody love without needing her mother's approval. Well, she succeeded, and after that encounter, the friction between the two of them dissolved completely. So these stories have an interesting theme. This is the dismantling phase that sometimes accompanies a higher and more beautiful and peaceful relationship. Part of the problem is that when you are going through a healing process, you don't fully see the whole picture of how the details will play out over time. Such things as turbulence, or being fired from your job, or a long-term relationship breaking up. In those cases, the most important practice is trust. The mind usually can't perceive the architecture of the soul's plan. The mind, which operates primarily through the 5 major senses, doesn't understand what is happening in your life or why. So it can't see the big picture. It doesn't see that a realignment is happening. In most cases, the mind doesn't even see the big picture or even where the events are leading. outer chaos is often hiding underneath all of these issues that are being released, which are going to lead you to a more evolved life. The soul has a larger agenda in mind. It sees the past, the present, the future. It knows what you most need in order to move forward in your evolution. So just as a caterpillar must dissolve into formlessness, becoming a butterfly, so must your old identities disintegrate before a new expression of the soul can emerge. And that in-between stage can feel like a death, because in a sense it is. It's a death of everything false. And trust is what allows you to remain steady and grounded and focused as you go through the storm. Trust is what transforms fear into participation. When you can say, I may not understand, but I trust. This is for my highest good. You then realign yourself with the intelligence of the soul. I have a YouTube video on the subject of trust. It's titled The Spiritual Secret to Trusting. And I recommend that you go ahead and watch that along with this video. Painful events are common on a healing journey. Your healing is like polishing a diamond. A diamond doesn't fully shine without being polished. In fact, you don't even see all those facets until the diamond is cut and shaped. When negative or sad things happen to good people, it's not because they deserve suffering and sadness. It's because their soul is strong and clear and evolving. The greater the soul's light penetrates, merges with, and integrates into your consciousness and into these painful fragments that are rising up, then the deeper will be your purification and healing. From the higher perspective, the universe is not punishing the goodness, but it's refining your frequency level. The heart is being prepared for deeper service, deeper compassion, deeper wisdom. After a major healing, the next step is integration, allowing the new vibration to stabilize. And this means grounding spiritual awareness into your daily life through honest relationships, healthy routines, creative expression, continued self-inquiry, deeper surrender, and deeper unconditional love. This takes time. Just as when you transplant a plant, it needs time to adapt to its new environment. The healed person must also root itself in these new frequencies. And as your stability grows and you gradually integrate the higher truths, higher vibrations, deeper realizations, external circumstances are naturally going to reorganize into harmony with your new healed self. So new relationships form, new opportunities that reflect your authentic vibration, that align you with your soul in your new life stream. So painful events are not detours. They're not blocks. They are the path itself. They strip away illusion. They deepen your surrender. They open your heart to love's infinite capacity. The spiritual journey is not about escaping suffering. It's about awakening through the challenges and the suffering. Every ending conceals a beginning. As you learn to see through the eyes of the soul, you realize that what you once called bad things were the universe's most loving interventions, the sacred dismantling of what was not yet love. Healing is not a single event. It's a lifelong series of discoveries and letting go. Each wave of healing uncovers deeper levels to surrender, which reveal deeper levels of trust. And when sometimes storms come after the light comes in, remember the light caused them not to harm you, but to purify the atmosphere of your life, to open up new frequencies and vibrations so new things can come to you. When you heal on the inside, you change your energy, you change your frequency, your vibrations, the energies you emit. And sometimes when you raise your vibrations, all the things that no longer match this new higher energy move to the surface. And it can look like conflict and chaos and loss or some sudden unexpected negative event. But these are not punishments. They're just the way the universe helps you to grow stronger and freer. So the universe isn't turning against you, it is working through you. The universe is never turning against you, it works through you. So your soul then begins to rearrange your outer life to match the new energy of your inner life. Old relationships or jobs that fit the old version of you may naturally and gradually shift and fall away. And so it can sometimes feel like things are falling apart for a while when you're in the middle of a transition, but really, life is simply clearing space for something better. From the soul's point of view, nothing bad is really happening. The universe isn't being cruel. It's helping you to open up to new opportunities for love. It's finishing up old lessons. Every challenge is a chance to become wiser, more peaceful, more surrendered, more loving, and closer to the true self of your soul. So if it feels like your world is shaking after a healing, just take a deep breath. What's really happening is the sacred process of transformation. What seems like loss is really your old energy dissolving so your soul can rise more fully to the surface and shine much more brightly through your life. The next time life shakes you up after healing, whisper to yourself, I'm not falling apart. Everything false is falling away. Your soul knows exactly what it is doing. It is the overall orchestra leader and conductor of your life. The universe is not punishing you. It is perfecting you. So have pleasant dreams, beautiful experiences until we meet again. I'm Jonathan Parker.